changing out the magnetic clutch on the air conditioner compressor. You'll see it right behind the washer container here, washer fluid container. I've already taken off the wheel. I've got it jacked up. Before you even think about a job like this, make sure you get plenty, because you're going to be under this car. So you've got to make sure you got plenty of support for the car. So I put wheel chocks behind the back wheels, set the brakes. I've also got a 20-ton jack here, and you got to be careful where you put those jacks. They've got to be on a point that won't slip. Now this jack is not supporting weight at the moment. It's about a quarter of an inch down below. That's a catch jack. I also have over here I have a ramp, and that's got two 2x6s on there supporting the frame in case it did fall. That's not support. The support is on this jack, and on this jack stand I believe has support. So I've got two jack stands, a ramp with a good solid block of wood under there, and I have a 20-ton hydraulic jack. So I feel pretty good about the safety part of this. And also I have the wheels chocked and the brakes set. The brakes on this car set on the back wheel, so that's an extra safety issue there, extra safety factor. Okay, so this is what I'm changing out today. This where I'm pointing that air conditioner clutch. I haven't taken off the belt yet. You can see. I'll get that in a minute. I just want to show you what I'm doing. First, I'm going to take off this container and get it out of the way so I can get up in there and work pretty easy. This is one of the easiest air conditioner compressors there are to get to. And this is on a Buick, but it should be similar for a lot of the Chevrolet cars, General Motors type cars, and other vehicles. Most vehicles use the same type of clutch setup, magnetic clutch. The tools I'm using here, I've used this electric impact wrench, which is super handy, worth $100 that it costs. I'll be using a 10mm, let's see right there, the 10mm socket on the edge of 3/8 inch drive ratchet and extensions. I'll use this to connect the 10mm when I get ready to take that clutch, that outside clutch plate off there. And there'll be a few other tools I'm using. I've got some circlip pliers when I take those off, and that's the main tools. Okay, so this is the beginning part, and I'll keep you filled in as we go. Thank you. Okay, now I'm working on getting this this windshield washer fluid container out of the way. This pump will snap right off, but when you pop it out of there, the bottom, you'll lose whatever fluid you got. So you stick your finger over it real quick, but go ahead and unhook your little wire clips. They unhook really easily. Just pull them down and pull them out. It's got a little clip right there. This one, pull that clip up and pull it out. It's a little more difficult than the other one. Try not to break them, of course. So that came out. Alright, so I've got that 2 wiring clips. Then you've got this. Let me go ahead and get the bolts out of the way. There's 3 bolts, and they're all 10mm. So this one, got one up here in the front. So you have to work without being able to see, of course. And you'll need a good long extension to get that one loose. I can show you better where these went in after I get this out of the way. And there's a bolt at the bottom right here. I'll show you those. Well, let me change out my extension. The extension is too long for that bottom bolt. So let me get that. All right, that's those 3 bolts, and this, I'll show you those after I get these out and get the belt out. Like I say, this fluid comes right out. If you do that, I don't have much fluid in it, so I'll pull that out and I'll show you how that works, and then I'll show you taking the belt loose. Okay, we're taking the serpentine belt loose, and this is your belt tensioner right here, below this pulley right here. You see this big pulley, this on the front of your engine, and it's got a square hole in it, receptacle right there for the end of a 3/8 inch ratchet. Okay, I'll pull this tension loose on this belt. Here's the belt tensioner, and I'll slip this belt off the front over here about on the alternator, and then we'll release the pressure, and it'll take it back in place. Then we can get our wrench out of there. All right, so now the belt is loose because I took it off of the alternator right here in front. Let me show you where I did that. Right here, I slipped the alternator off of that belt, off that pulley right there. Okay, so the belt's just hanging down now, so we can get it off of the air conditioner easily. So we'll go back around and we'll get that out of the way. And then we'll finish getting this container out of the way, and then we'll have easy access to our clutch. Okay, we're pulling a windshield washer fluid container out. Here's the cap for it. We've taken off the top, under the hood, and the 3 bolts that hold it on. So it's ready to come out. This is the gooseneck filler tube that goes in, and it will just slide right down through the bottom there and come right out. So we go ahead and pull that out. Now when you pull this loose, get a little gush of fluid, pull that out, and it just comes right down, as you can see, just like that. Okay, so that's out of the way. Now you can see how much more room we have to work around in here. Sorry about the camera shifting back and forth there. Here I have my exposed clutch on my air conditioner compressor, and so we're replacing the magnetic coil inside that clutch. This is the belt that's loose right here. Got the belt off, it's loose. One other thing that I didn't talk about is there is a fender liner here that has to be taken off with several snaps. So I'll try to show that probably when we're putting it back together. Alright, so to get that clutch off, what I use is this wrench here. It's It's an electric impact wrench, and I've got a long extension and a 10 millimeter socket on it. And so you just go right in there and it'll come right off. Make sure you got it on reverse and it'll spin it right out. Okay, so we got that 10 millimeter bolt out. Now this one should just slide right out, and there's a spacer inside. You can see the spacer right here. This is a spacer to make sure you get a good air gap, the correct air gap, which should be around 25 thousandths of an inch when you put your clutch back together. Okay, I've got that. Now I've got to get this circlip out of here, which is this. Okay, next step is taking this circlip loose here. Let's see if I can move that light out of the way a little bit. I think these pliers are not going to open up far enough. Nope. A lot of times on these circlips it's easier to use a pair of use some screwdrivers. Use your smallest screwdriver you got there. You can usually just start on one side, work your way around. This one is usually not that difficult, but usually when you get this one started on one side, then you need another screwdriver to get under. So you got, this is where your safety factor is. You can't do this without getting under the car, just about. So let's see if I can get it without. It'd be easier if I wasn't trying to film it. I've got that. Alright, see, I've got the screwdriver and I worked the end of it out there. Now that end is sticking out, so we just work it the rest of the way around. Go up one little notch, work it out, and just go all the way around. And they usually come out easier than they go back in. Now if you happen to have a set of circlip pliers that spread out far enough, that's really nice. I have had some in the past that work good. As you can see, the circlip right there just pops loose and it comes right out. And what I do, I want to put it back the same way it came out, so I usually do something like this, which is put it on a lug nut the way it came out, and put a lug nut on it. Put it on a stud and put a lug nut on it. That way I don't lose it. There are two circlips that you have to make sure you don't lose, and make sure you get them back in the same direction that they came apart. Now let's see if this slides out. This one will slide right off, just by hand. Now, a lot of times they won't slide off by hand. This one's probably been off before. So there's an area down behind it. You can go under the car behind it and tap with a piece of wood. Don't use metal. Just use a piece of wood, like a cut off of 14 or 16 inches of broomstick handle or something, and use a hammer and tap it out with that broomstick handle. But this one is coming right off. Okay, that's it. So there's our magnetic clutch coil. That's the part we're replacing right there. It's held on by a circlip down inside here, and I think these circlip pliers are going to get it out of there. Yep. Looks like I got very fortunate on that one. Now your finger won't hardly fit in there, so usually you reach in there with a screwdriver and pull it out. Like I say, don't drop it. Keep it in the same direction. This needs to go right back the same direction it comes out. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to put it on my lug nut there, my lug stud. Put a lug nut on it. They just hold that in where I know where they are and I know which direction they go. Okay, now this will come loose right there, but there's a wire that's attached. Okay, up till now we've got everything loose, and this magnetic coil is ready to come out, except there's a wire that you have to access from the top, and it's got a retainer clip that screws in that you have to get loose to get it out. So I'm going to show you this going under your alternator. Right here is a radiator hose, and I'll do this without taking the radiator hose loose because I don't want to lose Freon. Right beside it is a screw head right there. I hope you can see that on the video. Let me see if I can get closer. Alright, those screws are always real tight. This one's been taken off because I did this once already before I decided to film it. And so what I use to spin that loose is I use this little rig I made here. Let me get out here so I can show it to you. This is a long 3/8 extension right here for a ratchet socket, and this is a 1-inch nut driver on there, but this one happened to have a set point in it. And then I took a Allen wrench and I ground it off. So this is a 6-sided Allen wrench, a hex wrench they call them. I call them Allen wrench. Ground that off to a point, and then you can use a hammer to tap on that screw and get it to spin, and it'll spin counterclockwise if you know how to tap that out. The thing is, you can't reach it with a screwdriver. And if you did reach it with a screwdriver, it's a soft screw, so you wouldn't be able to, it would just strip the Phillips head out of it anyway. So I did get that out, turn that sharp side to where it cuts into it a little bit to the left of center, and tap down on it and it'll start to spin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take that out. I can't film it because I don't have enough hands. I'll get that out of the way and unclip it. I'll show you how to unclip the wire connector, and then we'll be pulling it out. Okay, we got the screw out of the retaining clip up under from above, and so now we're pulling this off. This is your connector here. Let's see if I can get a little better light on it. maybe. Alright, now to get that connector off, you push that retainer right there, and it pulls right out. Okay, there's a retainer clip right there. You push that, and it pulls right out. So this is the part we're changing out today. This is our magnetic clutch coil. This is our old magnetic clutch coil, and this is our new magnetic clutch coil. The only difference is the clip is made a little differently. If I get it turned that way, you can see this one basically is cut off right here. And to be honest, I almost was ready to cut that off and get it out of the way when I was trying to get the wire out anyway. So the wire ran under that, and it seemed to kind of hold it in place. So I'm going to have to be careful, make sure there's nothing that this interferes with or gets hit or touches the pulley or anything like that. So I'll check that out when I put it back in. So I'm going back in with a new one. Alright, now I got it lined up. Snap it together. There's a clip. Now there's a tab right here. See if you can see that. The tab right there that goes into the spot on your compressor housing, and that spot is right over here on that side right there. So that tab's got to go there. This has got to go up that way. So we'll go ahead and get that tab in spot right there where my finger is. Got my finger on it right there, and you can tell when you got it in pretty much right in the tab in place, because that won't rotate at all, hardly. Just you shake it just a hair. Okay, now putting my circlip back on it that I took off earlier. It'll go right back in there. If I can get it separated with my circlip pliers, it'll snap right in place. Okay, this is my circlip. I've got my pliers. Separating it. Going to use a screwdriver to help it go down flat. If all goes well, it'll jump on the first try. Okay, it looks pretty good. I've released it. The bottom, one side's in, one side's still up a little bit, but I should be able to get that. That's what happens sometimes. You go in for the second shot and you lose what you had. Okay, I'm still on it. I think I've got the one side in. That side, I think, just went in. Make sure that it's in the right place. It's not settled yet, but it's on the shoulder where it needs to be. And I think it just popped. No, it didn't pop in yet. I can feel it on the shoulder. You can hear it. Once we get it in place, we'll be able to spin it around a little bit just to verify that it is in place. So let's see if we can do that. You can tell it's kind of in place by the ends come together when it goes down in the groove. I feel like it's in place, but you really need to be careful and verify. Yep. It's in there. The best way to do that though is take a screwdriver and a hammer and tap on it just to make sure. So let me get my, this is probably the most critical part, because if this part comes loose, of course it'll mess up your clutch and very likely could mess up your compressor. Now you see how I'm spinning that? When you spin it and it doesn't jump out, it is almost certainly in that groove. I feel real good that that's in the groove now. A couple more taps. The ends look like they've come close together, and it's seated in, and that coil is in tight. Now I've got to go around and make sure that this wire doesn't have a lot of slack in it. So I'll probably be putting this screw back in from the top. I probably won't be able to show you that because it's just so difficult to get down that little spot. Now here you'll see the wire coming out of the back of the coil, magnetic coil there. It's right down there at the bottom of that screwdriver where it's pointing. And it wraps around the side of the compressor fairly neatly, so there's no way that the spinning clutch can, I don't believe will even get close to that wire to worry about. And that's secured because it's got this nut right here. See my shadow going down towards it there. That nut right there will tighten up. And I'll tighten it from the top, doing the same kind of spinning motion with my little homemade extension tool, chisel extension combination tool to spin that up tight. So that's that little screw right there in place. Okay, I've got my magnetic coil secured. I've got the snap ring in good, double checked it, make sure it's in good, in the groove, good, solid. The coil does not move. I've got the wire hooked up. I've got the little retaining clip put in. Now I'm putting on the 6-screw pulley right there. Sometimes they don't go on so easy, so you might have to use a little piece of wood and bump it with a hammer with a little piece of wood to drive it. That went on just fine. Now, one of the more difficult things is probably putting this clip back in place. I did drop it, so the way you can tell that it goes on is that the side that's shiny all the way around should be the side up against the pulley, against the bearing, and the side with just the little tips of these shiny would be the outside. And the other thing is, usually they won't go in the wrong way. So, alright, now these are difficult to put in. I'm going to try see if my snap ring pliers help. But last time I did one, they didn't really help a lot. As you can see, this has got to separate a lot further than these snap ring pliers want to let it do. Want to make it do. So I'm going to try to get one side in. Start with one end and work it back in the way we worked it out earlier. We'll push that in. They snap out of the way real easy. Once you get them started, they're not too bad. Now this material on this end of this compressor is soft aluminum, so try not to tear it up too bad. Yeah, it did go in. Let me get my screwdriver again. And bump that in. Good. As we can see here, we got the pulley on. It spins real nicely. We've got the snap ring in. I did want to show you. You can see when you got the snap ring all the way in because the ends of the snap ring right there, you can see they're pretty much buried and sunk into that groove. Now I did put a few little marks on this outside area here, but that's doesn't hurt anything. The main thing is you want to make sure you don't put any scratches on the bearing surface of that soft aluminum housing. But also this snap ring's all the way in. You can see it sunk down into the groove all the way around, and on the ends there you can tell it's sunk down because the holes are down in close to the housing there. So I feel really good about that. I'm going to go back with the original spacer that was in it because we haven't changed anything on this except for the magnetic clutch coil. And clutch coil doesn't affect your spacing. The spacing is affected by the shaft and this pulley and your that pulley and your outside plate and your spacer that it came with. So if you go back with the same spacers and pulleys, and they were in tolerance to start with, you should be good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this nut down. Let's see if I got it where you can see it. Tighten the nut down here. You might be able to see it better without my light up there. So that's that 10 millimeter that I used. And I'm not going to tighten it real tight with this impact. Tight enough to make sure it's on there, going to stay. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this belt back around the pulleys. Where it was. Then I'll go to the top. Now I do want to check that gap before and the gap should be around between 20 thousandths and 30 thousandths. Look that up to get the exact measurements, but I've always figured that 25 thousandths was pretty much right on. Okay, so, and after I do this, I'll go up and put the belt back on.